Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something maybe a little different for us, but really quite charming.
Hmm.
It's the Pet series of children's books, written by Reverend Patrice Joy, M.A.
And the illustrations are interesting, too. Nancy Jo Randall did the first two, and then there's a bit of a change for the third one by Tara Lynn.
Exactly. That's one of the things we want to explore. These books, they look simple, but they pack in some lovely lessons, don't they? About friendship, understanding.
Right, navigating the world.
Mhm.
All through these, well, very relatable animal characters. We've got 3 books to get into.
Yeah, and we're going to unpack them. Focus on the characters, the lessons you mentioned. They're woven in quite subtly.
And the art. Especially that shift in the third book. We should definitely talk about that.
Absolutely. So if you want to get a good, quick understanding of this series, this is the place.
We're aiming to pull out the key insights, the interactions between the pets, and that sort of gentle wisdom they pick up.
Okay, so let's meet the gang. First up is Buffy. She's a terrier poodle mix, a puppy full of energy.
Then there's Lucky. He's older, a beagle, a bit more, thoughtful.
And later on, book 2, Callie arrives, a calico kitten who's, well, she's quite a character.
And it's their life together, mostly in the Kentucky countryside, that forms the basis for these stories. Patrice Joy uses their experiences to share these little life lessons.
The setting feels important too, doesn't it? That gentle, woodsy background.
It does. Now, about that third book, our new friend, the owl, the illustrator, Tara Lynn.
She's Reverend Joy's granddaughter, right?
Yes, and her usual style is apparently quite abstract, inspired by nature. But for this book, she went realistic. It's quite a deliberate choice.
Which is fascinating. We'll definitely circle back to why that might be. It adds a whole other layer.
It really does. Ties into that personal connection, I think.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. Book 1, Buffy Meets Lucky.
Yep.
Illustrated by Nancy Jo Randall.
So this is where it all starts. Mom moves to Kentucky, gets Buffy from a shelter. She's about 1 year old, lots of puppy energy.
And she's exploring this new forest home. Lots to learn, lots to sniff out.
Uh-huh. And pretty soon she gets a brother, Lucky, also from the shelter. But he's 19 years old.
Wow, quite an age difference.
Yeah, so he's the calm, experienced one. He becomes Buffy's teacher, in a way.
And we see Buffy learning some important stuff right away, like that time in the park.
Oh, right. She rushes up to a big dog, all excited.
Yeah, just wants to play. But the other dog isn't having it. Barks, lunges. Pretty scary for a little pup.
Understandably. And Lucky, wisely, had kept his distance.
So afterwards, Lucky gives her some advice. What will it? Sniff out the situation.
That's it. Basically, check things out first. Be polite, observe, don't just bound in. Such a good lesson, really.
For dogs and people,
Yeah,
taking a moment to assess, you know?
absolutely. Then there are the cows. Buffy sees these huge animals.
And thinks they're giant, scary dogs, which from her perspective makes sense.
Right. But Mom steps in, reassures her, teaches her to watch them, go slow, see they aren't actually threatening.
Another lesson about not judging by appearances or size.
And even with actual wild animals, like a raccoon they see on a walk,
They don't engage. Mom takes them inside. And what do?
they watch Animal Planet, which is, honestly, a pretty charming way to learn about wildlife from a safe distance.
It really is. And there's this underlying theme, too, about connecting with others, even if they're different, like Buffy and the cow.
Yeah, they don't become best buds, but they reach a kind of understanding, a friendly distance at the fence.
It shows that relationships don't all have to look the same, doesn't it? You can have respect without being, inseparable.
Precisely. And throughout this book, Nancy Jo Randall's illustrations are, as you'd expect, very clear, warm, representational, classic children's book style.
Grounding the story visually, helping kids connect.
Yeah, provides that solid visual world for Buffy and Lucky.
Okay, let's move to book 2, Friends Forever, still illustrated by Nancy Jo Randall.
And this is where things get shaken up a bit. Callie the kitten arrives.
Right. The duo becomes a trio. And introducing a kitten into a dog household, well, it's not always smooth sailing initially.
Definitely not. The book shows that. There's competition, figuring out space, food, Mom's attention.
Isn't there a bit where Callie swipes at Buffy? When Buffy just tries to sniff her?
Yep, classic kitten move. It shows that adjustment period really well. Takes time.
But Callie, she's not exactly a typical cat, is she?
Oh, no. She seems completely unaware of the usual cat rulebook. She goes on walks with the dogs.
Tries to fly off the balcony.
Yes, like a bird. Thinks she's a squirrel climbing way up in trees.
Yeah.
And hates water. Definitely not your average feline.
And it's these quirks, these unexpected things about her that seem to win Buffy and Lucky over.
Exactly. Despite that old saying about cats and dogs being enemies, they form this really tight bond.
You see them sharing everything, right? Food bowls, water, even sleeping together.
Mm-hmm. Like they just forgot there's supposed to be different species who don't always get along. It's a lovely message about looking past differences.
And finding friendship in unexpected places. Acceptance is key.
And those unique traits are actually what build the bond. It wasn't despite her oddness, but maybe because of it.
That's a great point. And again, Randall's illustrations keep that consistent, familiar look and feel from the first book. Creates continuity.
Very important for young readers following the series. That visual anchor.
Okay, now for book 3. Our new friend, the owl. And here's the big visual shift. Illustrations by Tara Lynn.
Reverend Joy's granddaughter. And as we mentioned, her usual style is abstract, nature-based. But here,
She draws the characters realistically. It's a really interesting choice.
it is. And you have to think it's tied to the story itself. Knowing her usual style really puts it in perspective. Does it change how you read the story, knowing that?
I think it might lend it a different kind of weight, maybe, a more personal feel. The story here involves the pets encountering more wildlife, a snapping turtle, a skunk, which they wisely avoid.
Reinforcing those earlier lessons about caution. Be aware of your surroundings.
But the main event is finding this young owl on their path. And it's just sitting there, not moving.
So Mom gets worried. Thinks
Yeah.
it might be hurt.
Yeah, and her response is great. Takes the pets inside so they don't stress the owl. Goes back to check.
Tries to help even.
Gently, yeah.
Ah,
But the owl makes these clicking sounds like a warning. So Mom backs off and does the smart thing.
she calls for help. Raptor reintegration of Kentucky.
Right. And the book even mentions that other places have similar rescue groups, which is a great piece of information to include. Teaches kids about responsible action.
It really is. But then the owl disappears. And Mom gets quite upset.
Yeah, she's worried it crawled off somewhere hurt. And the pets, Buffy, Lucky, Callie, they sense she's distressed.
And they comfort her, which is just such a perfect illustration of that bond between humans and pets, that emotional support.
So true. Many of us know that feeling, that deep care.
Yeah. But then there's a happy resolution, thankfully.
Yes. They go back later, and the pets, with their amazing sense of smell, pick up the owl's scent.
And they find it up in a tree. Perfectly fine.
Turns out it wasn't hurt at all. It had just been eating a fish it caught.
Huh. A bit of an anticlimax, but in a good way.
Exactly. It teaches that sometimes things seem like a problem, but they work themselves out. And also that showing concern, being compassionate, is always worthwhile, even if the worry was unnecessary in the end.
A very gentle lesson.
Yeah.
And the story ends happily with Mom playing ball with the pets, relaxed and relieved.
And crucially, this book mentions that the characters Mom, Buffy, Lucky, Callie are based on Patrice Joy herself and her actual pets.
Which brings us back to the illustrations. That probably explains why Tara Lynn chose realism for this one. To capture her grandmother and these beloved animals faithfully.
It makes perfect sense. It adds this layer of authenticity and love to the whole thing and knowing it's real.
Absolutely. So looking back at the whole series, what are the big takeaways?
Well, definitely learning how to interact with others, whether they're like you or different. That comes up again and again.
Right, from Buffy meeting dogs to the whole cat and dogs dynamic with Callie.
And friendship, how it develops, how you overcome bumps in the road to build those connections. It takes patience.
Mm-hmm. And understanding. Looking beyond the surface. Like you said, sometimes the things that seem like obstacles are actually the building blocks.
There's also that theme of caution and observation. Being aware, sniffing out the situation, not just rushing in.
And kindness towards animals and nature. Mom's reaction to the owl really highlights that, showing concern.
And just, the sheer comfort and companionship pets offer. That runs through everything.
And that unique art style in the third book, The Realism, from Tara Lynn. It doesn't break this series, but highlights the personal heart of it, especially our new friend, the owl.
It feels like a tribute, almost.
Yeah. So overall, the series offers these really lovely, gentle life lessons through characters kids can easily connect with. And honestly, they're enjoyable reads for anyone.
So what do you think listeners really get from diving into these books with us?
I think it's that reminder, really, that learning happens in everyday moments. Patience, kindness, understanding. They're shown, not just told. You see how they build strong relationships, whether it's between pets or how we view the world.
That's beautifully put. So if you're looking for stories that are heartwarming, engaging, and gently explore animal companionship and those kinds of life lessons.
The Pet series is definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely. Thanks for exploring these charming books with us today. And maybe think about this. How do we, in our own lives, learn to connect with those around us, friends, family, even the other creatures sharing our world? Can we apply a bit of Buffy, Lucky, and Callie's journey of patience and understanding? Something to ponder.